every time he had. I think they wound up buying a truck with his money and the whole 9 yards. And, yeah.
What a
So
shame.
that's why I say we tried to help him, but he didn't want to listen to us. And I think
I grew up in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
I think about Janice, you know, when I drive by and.
I mean, the truth of the matter is, I'm sure he loved the attention he got from those people. You know, let's go to Bob. Let's go, Bob. He liked that attention, but
Yeah,
unfortunately, he didn't know he was being used.
Yeah. Gosh, they
So,
used him. Oh,
but I mean, he's still alive and kicking, and
that's good.
so. I always keep saying it's like like my mom and him, they'll probably outlive me. I'm just gonna go one day and that'll be it. And, they'll.
Oh, don't say that.
Well, hopefully that's a number of years away, but
Oh my gosh. I think about all the kids in that neighborhood at one time. Wow.
That's a different world these
Jones,
days.
DeMassey's, Bryan's. Wow. Bryan boys. I used to see them every now and then, but I don't see them anymore.
There are people living in that house now.
In
Bobby,
your grandma's house? I think so.
Yeah,
it looks like it.
I mean, 'cause they obviously they sold it, and the original thought was they were going to tear it down and build, slumlord, whatever, like an apartment type thing right there. Because there's actually like 2 lots right there. But I guess obviously that.
No, I think when I came by tonight, I noticed lights on. And, of course, I guess that doesn't mean anybody's living there. I've never seen any person there, but it seems like somebody's living there. It looks like it. Then I think about Wilma. Oh boy, she's getting up in years.
Yeah, if we stop and think too hard about it, we all are. I'll try not to. But that's why I keep joking with everybody. I got 7 more months and I can walk out of here.
Are you going to? Are you going to?
If
It's tempting,
if people keep pissing me off, yes, and I don't mean you guys either.
I've been retired for a while, but I'm still working.
Well, that's like I say, I'm sure
like,
whenever.
You ready? Okay. We'll go ahead and call this meeting of the Policy Board of the Monongalia County MMMPO to order. The first item of business is the public comment period, and we have Mr. Mark Downs from Main Street, Morgantown, which I think a lot of us know him, but Mark,
Yeah.
floor is
And
yours.
Mark, can we ask you to speak over the, yeah.
Hello, I'm Mark Downs, and many of you, as Ron said, but for those that I don't, I'm a property owner and business owner in downtown Morgantown. Live in South Park, grew up in Morgantown, but I was recently elected president of the board of Main Street Morgantown, and hi, Bill. And I wanted to just come and introduce myself. I learned about MPO on Tuesday, thanks to Councilperson Kowecki. We were talking at our board meeting about some opportunities and some plans and some issues that we're trying to solve around connectivity between the wharf and downtown, and some opportunities that we see there, and some potential vehicles for addressing those opportunities. So one of those vehicles that was raised was Reclaim, the grant that we learned that you all successfully were awarded for planning, and congratulations on that. So anyway, I learned about what the work that you all are doing, the good work for the community, and I was excited to learn about it. The other thing that stood out for us from a Main Street perspective was the downtown traffic study that you all are working on. So anyway, I wanted to introduce myself. Main Street this is a transformational year for Main Street Morgantown. We're not going to be that little organization that does arts walks that are important and drive increased sales for our merchants downtown by many times on Saturdays when we conduct those arts walks. We're going to be much more ambitious in the coming year. We're looking to revitalize downtown and the wharf and drive economic vitality and safety and tackle many other issues. So look forward to partnering with you where we can and a dialogue continuing. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Mark, while you're here, let's deviate just a little bit if we could. So, because I know you don't want to do an executive session outside and wait, but just as
I just wanted to introduce myself and let you all get on
but
with your business.
as an update to that, Bill, why don't you update folks on we had a very good meeting today about looking at getting the match. Oh. So we had folks from WVU in the room, Commissioner Bloom was in the room, MAP and the city manager. So I don't want to report out that we're all, because we have some approval processes to go through, but in theory, I think we're all agreeing on how that match would be put together. So, and Bill, you may want to express the fund that it would come from. It's a really good opportunity to move this forward. So.
Yeah, and I was going to cover this in my executive director's report, so I'll just cover this part of it. We have a Tier 1 project, which is our highest priority project, to do a micro simulation study of traffic downtown. And it's to look at various alternative scenarios for how downtown should operate, even things that might be considered radical, like eliminating the one-way street pairs. Or a lot of different options will be considered in this study. And our consultants estimated the total cost of the study would be $500,000. We requested the state to utilize funds, their surface transportation block grant funds, which the new federal transportation legislation suballocates a portion of those funds to MPOs our size. We asked the state if they would be willing to use those funds to fund our study. And we got a letter from the governor, and I want to thank Mr. Carr for working with us on this. And not the governor, excuse me, the Secretary of Transportation, saying that we could use those funds for that purpose. So we will get $400,000 in funding for that microsimulation study. And we've been putting together a group of stakeholders at the meeting Mr. Justice referenced to come up with the $100,000 worth of matching funds for that study. So, in talking with Mayor Saline, it may be very coincidental, but I think the city has some plans also to look at downtown, and we could coordinate those activities and really pull the land use and transportation issues together and address them for all of downtown. So that's one of our pieces of good news that we've recently gotten.
Good news. Thank you all for taking downtown on as a topic.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So we are, tonight is the annual Executive Director's Review. So we will need to go into executive session for a few minutes. So I would need a motion to that effect pursuant to your code reference there. And initially, I'd like for everyone to leave, and then we'll bring you in if that's okay.
That works for me.
Okay.
Sure.
So is there a motion to go into executive session?
6-9A-4B-12 or 9. It's either 9 or 12, whichever one is personnel.
It's 4.2A.
Yeah,
Take as your motion.
Yeah.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. All in favor to go into executive session?
Aye.
So we are in executive session. We'll get through it very quickly.
We could either leave,
He's-
I guess.
He's fading the video out.
Move to come out of executive session.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So we're out of executive session. Next order of business is the approval of the minutes. What's
So
your
mo-
pleasure?
So move.
Motion,
Second.
second. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The minutes will stand as printed. The next order of business is election of officers, and I'm very happy to report to you that we have a recommendation from the nominating committee for new officers. And those new officers for the nomination would be Mike Kelly as the chair, Joe Statler as vice chair, Patty Lewis as treasurer, and Bill Alston as secretary.
Okay.
If we would entertain a motion to accept that slate.
as presented.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion?
I was gonna say, does anybody else want to be on?
Yeah.
Is there any nominations from the floor? Hearing none, is there a motion to close nominations as the slate is presented? Is there a
Second.
Second.
Nominations, all in favor of the slate as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So congratulations, Mr. Kelly.
Any of the ones now.
Take it over from here.
All right. Appreciate it. This is, geez, what, my third go around as chairman?
I believe so, yes.
Yours was 3 or, anyway, let's move on. Committee reports.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, unfortunately, Mr. Abildso was unable to make the meeting tonight. We did have a quorum at the Citizens Advisory Committee. They reviewed the items that are before you, and they reflect the comments of the Citizens Advisory Committee and the Transportation Technical Advisory Committee, of the MPO. All those documents are there, and they did, so those documents reflect and they do support the issuance of those documents. So that's their committee report.
Okay. Finance?
All right. Beginning of November, we had a balance of $64,604.25. We didn't have any deposits. In November, we had 23 disbursements totaling $24,485.99, with an ending balance of $40,118.26 carried over into December. We had a deposit of $16,970.56 from the DOH, 17 disbursements totaling $23,735.19, leaving us a balance at the end of December of $33,353.63.
Okay.
I move to accept the treasurer's report, the finance report.
We have a second?
Second.
Open for discussion. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I guess the executive director, you
Yes,
get
sir.
to do your job now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you may recall from the last MPO Policy Board meeting, we were to write 3 letters to the Secretary of Transportation about 3 different issues. One of the issues was accepting and asking the DOH to work with us on the RAISE grant, that the DOH would be the contracting agency for the consultant to perform the design of the remaining sections of Greenbag Road, as well as doing the feasibility study to the trail. And we received a response from the Secretary of Transportation, which was included in your agenda packet, agreeing to the use, to perform that service for us. And we will be working on a contract for the design study for Greenbag Road with Mr. Perry Keller of DOH, who I think most of the Policy Board knows. The second item was we had talked about the use of carbon reduction funding for improving the intersection of SR 73, I'm sorry, it's County Route 73 and Don Knotts Boulevard to do the design work. The MPO under the new federal legislation is sub-allocated funding, carbon reduction funding for that. This is an eligible expense at 100%. There does not need to be a local participation for that. And the Secretary of Transportation agrees with us and will approve the use of those funds for the design of the Green Bag Road project. He also stated that they are using highway safety improvement funds to construct the new design for the intersection, for that intersection. So we will have to do a TIP amendment for that, which I anticipate we will have in March, but Secretary Riston has signed off on that. And so it should show up to us as being programmed. The third item, we have a Tier 1 project for a downtown study, which we discussed previously as part of the discussion during our public comment period. We wrote a letter requesting that the Division of Highways approve the use of our suballocated funds from the Surface Transportation Block Grant Program for the conduct of the downtown micro simulation study, as former Chairman Justice related. We had a meeting with stakeholders about providing the match required for that funding to reach the full $500,000, and we have a game plan for providing that match. So we hope to be going into the consultant acquisition process quickly and probably having a consultant in place sometime shortly after the turn of the fiscal year, and for that project to begin. And that's a very exciting, important project. It relates to Willie Street. It looks at the potential problem, solving the problems caused by Grumbines Island. It looks at the downtown roadway network and optimizing it, as well as ensuring that our downtown is safe for traffic. And that will be a very big ongoing study with a steering committee made up of both DOH, as well as we have policy board members and technical advisory committee members, so we can come to a consensus about how we address the issues in downtown Morgantown. And I'm very excited about that prospect. And last, I would also like to let the board know, I've been invited by the Federal Highway Administration to a roundtable to discuss innovative finance and the use of innovative finance techniques. It's a national discussion in Washington at Federal Highways headquarters. And that will be January the 31st. And I may take that Monday off and do a little sightseeing in Washington before I go to that meeting. But I'm also excited to be participating in that. And
Very
that's
good.
my report.
Any questions for the director?
I just want to personally thank the MMPO board for pushing the carbon reduction at the 100%. I think we just saved the citizens of Montague County, all the group, $250,000. And I appreciate that, Bill. And I think that says something to this board. That saved us $250,000 that we would have had to come up somehow to make that match. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Next, audit. Oh, go ahead.
I bet I know some people who might be interested in participating in that committee for the downtown Morgantown traffic study when you get there.
Audit.
Yep.
Next.
Yeah. Yes, Mr. Chairman, included in your agenda packet was our annual audit. The surprising thing about it was, at this time, the auditor submitted their bill faster than the state auditor's office submitted their bill. Usually the state auditor's office submits their bill before we ever see the auditor's bill. But we did have a very clean audit. Everything is good with that, and we would just appreciate it if the board would accept that audit.
I would move to accept it.
Do a motion? Second, discussion? All in favor of acceptance of the audit? signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Do we have motions?
Yeah, first, second.
All right, next is the draft of the on-call consultant RFQ.
Yeah, so this is essentially the draft on-call consultant RFQ that we saw back, I believe it was in August, or not August, July. It's essentially the same contract, except there was a provision of how we handled getting financial information from the potential consultants, that the construction, that the engineering the engineers association, Civil Engineers Association had concerns with, and they were very adamant about those concerns, so we withdrew the previous audit. We've changed how we handle that financial information in this RFQ, and what we would like to do is reissue it. It's essentially the same thing. That's the only difference. And so if the board will authorize us, we will release that RFQ.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Anybody else have any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Yep. The next item on the agenda, Mr. Chairman,
Yep, go right ahead.
is the downtown micro simulation study, which I think we've discussed in depth. That is no longer, from the discussions we've had with the state, on RFQ and RFP, the MPO will not be releasing that. What we have done is drafted a scope of work, which will feed into the process that we will be working with the state on. We will give the state has an on-call contract like we want to have. And the process we've worked out in discussion with Mr. Carr is that we will use one of their on-call consultants, and we will use this scope of work to, we will provide that to their on-call consultants, let them come back and bid with us for that work. And the selection committee will select from one of the three consultants that come forward from the state's on-call contract. And so really what we're looking for, and I did receive a comment from Commissioner Bloom, which is actually already taken care of in the
I noticed. That's what I showed.
one that you see that on your desk, not the one that you got in your agenda packet. But we are open to more comments to improve that scope of work from the policy board, if you would like. But
Timeline on everything, putting out, getting back, selection, what are you thinking?
well, we had a discussion that I need to clarify that with you. We anticipate that we will be able to start the selection process quickly, but we probably will not have the consultant under contract until after the turn of the fiscal year, which would be really, I guess, July 1st. And
So we need to and because of that, if I can add, after just hearing the conversation, we need to make sure that that money that we split into 2 years really needs to be sent the first week in July.
right,
Yeah, just why,
yeah.
Not in arrears.
right.
So, but yeah, we want to make sure it will be
So
the
that
very
was
first
new.
part of the year.
Yeah.
Which will not hugely be detrimental to the study
No.
because we will have to do data collection
Mhm.
in the fall. And that's the key part with this micro-simulation study. They'll be doing all kinds of turning movement counts. There'll be people sitting at intersections and they'll go, while they're sitting there, they're doing turning movement.
Twice.
So it's a very
Do we
involved
need
process.
action on that or just an
Yeah.
information?
Just,
Well, we have
that's
to do
just an
one now,
informational item,
and then
and I would
but
encourage
that's-
the policy board members,
and that's-
if you have comments, let me know. Yes, sir.
Just wanted to make sure I clarify or, fully understand. And I know I verbally rattled off 5 consultants that the state has already
Identify.
pre-selected. Is it your intent or the policy board's intent to look at those 5, whittle it down to 3, and then interview those? Or are you planning on just literally picking one out of it and start negotiating?
Well, what I was hoping we would do is be able to provide them with the scope of work, and then have them respond to the scope of work, and then we select,
Based
Without
on
an
the
interview?
paper scope.
yeah, based off the paper scope. And My preference would be to select 3 of those 5 that we've talked about. And I think Mr. Carr and I can work that out and let the policy board know. And if there are any concerns from the policy board, all the firms we've discussed are major national firms.
Yeah, okay.
But we want to be fair for them.
All right.
Is that,
Okay, so it's not so much an interview, it's more of a written interview per
Right.
se, that they'd send in what they would do. And you can always follow it up with an actual verbal one if you wanted to.
Right.
If you think, oh, well, these two, I'm not quite sure I understand
Right.
what they're doing here, you always have follow-up questions to things, so.
yeah.
But again, fortunately, unfortunately, however you wanna say it, we're not gonna really get this thing off the ground until after July 1, so we have ample time to get that consultant on board between now and then.
Yeah, precisely. So,
Any other comments? This doesn't require a vote, so
yeah,
we'll,
so,
let's see, what do we have next here? The draft 2023-2024 Unified Planning Work Program.
yes, sir, and this is provided strictly as an informational item. I always would like to give the policy board and our committees chance for input on the draft prior to actually bringing the document forward for adoption in March. And so this is an informational item, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have about it. And
Anybody have any questions at this point in time? I'm sure we will later.
I just wanted to point out that we've been talking for a long time about some areas in the Suncrest area, down towards Star City, and other areas around there, like Evansdale and Burroughs and Collins Ferry and University Avenue. Some of the areas around there, not as much, but probably included would be Pattison, which has been studied quite a bit, but it probably has to include that too. But having a small area study in the Suncrest and Star City area for some of the major places where people need to cross, and it's a matter of safety, it's a matter of commerce for people to be able to get across the road to wherever they need to get to, and so that's something that we had talked about in the planning process, just drilling down a little bit more.
yeah, and I think that is something we can look at.
And it could be, it'll be the end of this year, going into next year, however you can fit that in, but that seems like one of the things that's come out of this last one.
Yeah, and I know we discussed it before, and I didn't think about this when I
Yes.
discussed it with you last. The state has been working on that safety program.
Right.
And one of the things, I have not seen their final report, but I know it addresses that area to some extent.
Well, yes, I bet it will address certain portions, and then some of the other portions that are like neighborhood businesses and getting across, and I don't think it's gonna address university as much, but
Well, we'll
maybe
take,
we'll be
we'll
surprised.
look and see what it has, and then we'll see
Right.
about
Right.
working the scope around that.
Yeah, and
Which
that's
was-
why I was thinking
Yeah, so.
the end of this year, maybe going to next year, but just putting that idea in the queue,
Yeah.
wherever it best fits.
Yeah, sure, and I will definitely note that.
Have we heard anything as to when we would see this report?
The last that I had heard is they're working on like a pedestrian safety summit. The state's highway safety program, thank you, Mr. Justice. Safety program has picked Huntington, our area, as being focal points for pedestrian safety, and they kind of want to have a summit and do a big kickoff with all of that, and then we will get a better sense of that process. And I have on my tickler to give Ms. Hardy a call about that, actually either this week or next week, to find out the status of that. We talked to her probably about 6 weeks ago about it. So I do know, and this is from a completely personal source, that she may be having some health issues, and so she may be slowed down a little bit about that. That's strictly from Facebook. So,
Wow, it's Facebook.
so if it's Facebook, it must be true, right? So, but we do have that to follow up on.
So that would be a presentation of the study that they came up with, or that would be input into that
I
study?
don't have
Fine, I'm good.
a complete,
I'm not, I'm not expecting more than you know.
yeah,
Thank you.
a complete picture, but I do know that she is working on that initiative.
Great, yep, let's let them do what they need to
Yeah.
do.
And we apologize if she is not sick.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I hope,
Okay, any other comments? Business?
sick.
One thing I want to say is thank you for the chairmanship, and I really love this, this committee, because I've always said this is the closest thing that the general public has to having a voice and being able to talk about transportation issues, because for years, you could talk about transportation issues, but other than the opinion page in the newspaper, you really couldn't get that point across. So, not to take anything away from the newspaper, but I do, I really appreciate this committee, and I really appreciate everybody's time, because everybody's volunteering here, so it's, again, on behalf of the public, thank you for your time and input. Anybody else?
Quick question, is there Mon County Day at the legislature this year? If so,
Yeah,
when?
February 2nd. It's the second?
February
It's not-
2nd.
I have my
I
calendar
hadn't
out.
heard one, and that's usually oftentimes a talk during this particular meeting, so.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked was I just,
that was a question I did have for the policy board, is if you would like me to attend Mon County Day.
Yeah.
Okay, I will plan on doing it.
That's through
And the first words out of your mouth is Brockway.
Prefer to be 73.
Yeah, yeah, I'll take Brockway.
I may just go from Washington to Charleston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
You work with Russ Rogerson for the details.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know, I know I can't go. I think we gotta be down in Charleston
We're-
the following weekend.
Right, that's why we're not going,
So
we're
I'm
not
in
able to go
Charleston
down.
twice in 2 days, so,
Yeah.
So you're not going to Mon County Day?
No,
I won't be able to.
I can't either, because not if we're going to the
We have to be in Charleston on that Sunday. It's on
Sunday through
Thursday.
Tuesday.
Oh, with the counties?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a budget thing,
Yeah.
saving money, but I'm going twice.
Yeah, I mean, we're concerned about our taxpayers. We don't.
I'll just tell them my name is Tom Bloom.
Oh, God. No, you don't want to do that. You better start running.
Okay.
But I'll plan on going.
Yeah.
I just wanted to tell the chair that I appreciate your work as chair over the years, and look
to do it
forward to
again.
it. And anything that we can do to further the cause of good roadways throughout the county and clean ditches. So,
Appreciate that.
there we are.
Speaking of chairs, maybe we can find ones that's about 6 inches
Yeah,
higher.
these aren't our regular chairs, by the
Oh.
way. so- All right, anything else?
Nope.
We stand adjourned.
Move to adjourn.
As soon as I get the